At the airport, she whispered sharply, "Don't walk beside me. You'll make me look bad in front of my crew." I gave a small nod, letting her stride ahead, but when she returned weeks later, I wasn't the one picking her up. My girlfriend, Lila, and I were always wired differently. My world is grounded, built on what's solid and real. Hers is a curated performance, crafted for likes and followers on a screen. For the first couple of years, this contrast felt refreshing, even endearing. But 8 months back, Lila ditched her steady graphic design job to chase a full-time influencer career. We struck a deal. I'd handle the major expenses for a 6-month trial to give her a shot at building her brand. She'd dip into her savings for her business costs. It was a calculated, short-term gamble. I was supporting her dream, not signing up to bankroll her forever. Almost right away, her business expenses started looking more like lavish shopping trips, and my patience began to fray. Our partnership felt less like a team effort and more like I was the unseen stagehand for her solo act. The cracks were growing. Subtle jabs about my uninspiring lifestyle. The way she'd bark orders at me like I was her assistant. Her 3-week content creation trip to Europe was meant to be her final big push before the 6-month deadline, when she'd need to start pitching in again. The airport moment wasn't the first warning sign, but it was the one that broke me. I drove her to the terminal, lugging her 3 oversized, absurdly heavy suitcases. As we neared the check-in area, she spotted her friends, Tara and Chloe. They were dressed like they were about to star in a fashion shoot, not board a transatlantic flight. Their eyes flicked over me. Jeans, a comfy sweatshirt, and I caught their barely hidden sneers. Lila froze mid-step. She spun around, her face tight with panic. "Okay, stop here," she hissed, her voice low and cutting. I blinked, confused. "What?" "I'll walk you to security," I offered. She let out a huff, like I'd suggested we start a campfire in the middle of the terminal. Glancing at her friends, who were pretending not to eavesdrop, she snapped, "Don't walk with me. You'll embarrass me in front of them." And there it was, the final nail. I wasn't her partner, someone to cherish. I was a liability, a smudge on her polished persona. I glanced past her at Tara and Chloe, smirking like they'd heard every word. In that instant, our entire relationship flashed before me, but now with brutal clarity. Every snide remark, every moment I felt like a prop instead of a person, it all locked into place. The love I'd held for her didn't just fade, it vanished like smoke. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. A strange, almost liberating calm washed over me. I met her eyes, her perfectly made-up face, and nodded. "You're right," I said, my tone steady and polite. "I wouldn't want to do that. Safe travels, Lila." I released her luggage cart, turned, and walked away without a backward glance. She stood there, speechless, probably expecting a blowout she could spin into a story for her friends. Instead, she got nothing but my retreating figure, shrinking in the distance. As I left the airport, I pulled out my phone. She'd be gone for 3 weeks, plenty of time to set things in motion. Lila was about to get a life-altering reset, and I definitely wasn't going to be her ride home. The drive back from the airport was the most focused hour of my life. Part of me, the petty, raw part, wanted to dump her stuff on the curb and call it a day. But the part of me that thrives on order and precision knew this needed to be surgical. This wasn't about destruction. It was about dismantling with purpose. My first move was the car dealership where I'd bought the sleek SUV she loved flaunting. It was a stunner, and she adored the attention it drew. It was also entirely in my name. I walked in, tracked down the sales rep I'd dealt with before, and told him I was selling it back. He raised an eyebrow, but saw the opportunity. By late afternoon, the papers were signed, the car was theirs, and a hefty check was in my hands. Step 1 done. When I got home, the house felt alien. Lila's presence was everywhere, her clothes crammed in the closets, her beauty products cluttering the bathroom, her content studio swallowing the guest room. It was a shrine to someone who no longer belonged in my life. Time for an overhaul. I wasn't just going to box up her stuff. I wanted her gone, erased. I called a premium junk removal and cleaning company, laid out the situation, and told them I wanted every trace of her removed. Closets cleared, bathroom stripped, guest room gutted. I also wanted the house scrubbed spotless, like it was brand new. They gave me a quote, and I offered double if they could finish by the next evening. They got to work, and I turned to the digital side of things. I logged into our shared streaming accounts and reset every password. I combed through my bank accounts and credit cards, removing her as an authorized user. Then I found the login for her influencer website. I didn't shut it down. That'd be too easy. Instead, I slipped into the admin settings and updated the contact email and recovery phone number to mine. I was now the invisible puppet master of her online empire. By the next night, the house was a blank slate, clean, empty, and serene. The junk removal crew had been relentless. Every remnant of Lila was gone. The guest room, once a jungle of ring lights and trendy outfits, was now a bare space brimming with possibility. But a bare house isn't a home. So I went to work. I bought a cozy, sink-in sectional sofa, perfect for napping. I dug out the walnut coffee table I'd handcrafted years ago, which had been banished to storage because it didn't match her vibe. I splurged on a massive new TV and a surround sound system. The guest room became a hybrid gym and workshop for my woodworking projects. My life revolves around creating things that last, and I was finally reclaiming my space to do it. Over the next 2 weeks, I rebuilt my world. I reconnected with buddies I hadn't seen in ages because Lila deemed them dull. I went mountain biking, caught a few baseball games, and did all the things I'd shelved because they weren't post-worthy. Lila sent a few texts during this time, flippant updates with selfies in front of the Colosseum or sipping wine in Paris. She never asked about me, just broadcasted her dazzling life. I didn't respond. The final piece clicked into place a few days before her return. I used part of the car sale money to book a 3-week solo road trip through the Pacific Northwest, a dream I'd put off because Lila loathed anything outdoorsy. My flight out was set for the same day she'd land. The day before her flight, I sent her one email, subject line, "Details for your arrival." It was concise. "Lila, as you made clear at the airport, I'm no longer part of your life. To honor that, I've taken the following steps. 1. Your belongings have been packed and moved to a storage unit at 456 Storage Lane, Unit 17. The access code is 5678. The first month is paid. 2. The SUV you drove has been sold. It was in my name. 3. The house locks have been changed. You no longer live here. I trust this gives you the freedom you wanted. I'll be traveling abroad for a few weeks and won't be reachable. Wishing you well, Ethan." I hit send, powered off my phone, and packed my camping gear. She wanted to be the star of her own production. I'd just handed her a blank stage. I was halfway through a hike in Olympic National Park, soaking in the quiet majesty of the forest, when I finally turned my phone back on. 6 days had passed since I'd left. The flood of notifications was a masterpiece. Voicemails, texts, emails, all a chaotic blend of fury and desperation. Missed calls from Lila, her friends, even her parents. Voicemails that, from the transcriptions, were just rants and sobs. And the emails. Oh, the emails. My buddy Mike had been my eyes and ears back home. He filled me in. Lila's flight landed, and she'd stood at the airport curb for over an hour, expecting me to roll up. When I didn't, she had a meltdown right there, screaming into her phone. She ended up taking an overpriced taxi to my place, the driver wrestling her massive suitcases. He dropped her off and sped away as she tried her key in the door. When it didn't work, Mike said, via a neighbor's account, it was like watching a reality show meltdown. She was stranded on my porch, surrounded by her luggage, with nowhere to go. She blew up my phone, then called Tara and Chloe. Her loyal squad, so eager to cheer her European escapades, suddenly had packed schedules. Neither had room for her stuff or a spare couch in their cramped apartments. Her parents had to drive 3 hours to rescue her. Mike said it was a circus, her dad shouting, her mom in tears, and Lila just sitting on a suitcase, staring at the locked door. That night, her social media offensive kicked off. Lila, Tara, and Chloe posted melodramatic stories about toxic relationships and how I'd left Lila homeless. They tried to brand me a villain, but I'd already laid the groundwork. Before leaving, I'd sent a brief message to our mutual friends, explaining that Lila and I had split because our values didn't align, asking them to hold off on judging. So when her smear campaign hit, it flopped. The airport story, what she'd said to me, had started to spread. Her "poor me" narrative wasn't sticking. The real coup, though, was her website. I'd made one tiny tweak while on my trip. I swapped out her glossy, filtered photo gallery for a single image, a high-res scan of the junk removal receipt, the total cost circled in bold red. Below it, a caption, brand under reconstruction. Stay tuned for updates. Mike said one of her dwindling followers sent her a screenshot, and she lost it, yanking her entire site offline. A week later, the legal threats rolled in, a letter from a slick law firm demanding I let her back into the house and pay her support. My attorney, who lives for this kind of drama, fired back with copies of the house deed and car title, both in my name, and an itemized bill for her share of expenses over the past year, which dwarfed any claim she could make. He closed with a cheerful note that if she wanted to take it to court, I'd be thrilled to countersue for what she owed me. The threats stopped. Her posts dried up. All that remained was a glorious, peaceful quiet. It's been 5 months since I got back from my trip. The silence is still the best part. My house is mine again, filled with things I've made, art I love, and zero chaos. The saga of Lila's return and her life's collapse became a bit of a legend among our friends. She and her parents had to rent a moving truck to haul her stuff from the storage unit. A grim, tense family affair, I'm told. Lila moved back in with her parents. Her influencer career is dead in the water. Her brand was built on a lifestyle she couldn't maintain without my wallet. No more trips, designer clothes, or fancy dinners meant no content. Her feed, once a flood of glamour shots, is now just recycled photos and cryptic captions about fresh starts. Tara and Chloe bailed. Turns out their friendship was as shallow as her relationship with me. They got fed up with her whining and demands for cash. I had one last brush with her, indirectly. A month ago, a guy who runs a local art gallery called me. "Hey, Ethan," he said, chuckling. "Lila came in yesterday, trying to sell me some furniture from your place. Said she's an interior designer now." I laughed. "Did you buy it?" "Nah," he said. "It was all generic, cheap stuff with no soul." I told her it was junk. She got mad, started ranting about how you destroyed her life and her career. He paused. "You dodged a missile, man." And he's right. Lila saw me as a prop, a bank account to fuel her dreams. She thought my role was to stay out of sight, funding her spotlight. She never realized I wasn't just in the background. I was the bedrock. When the bedrock walks away, the whole flimsy facade collapses. I'm not bitter anymore. I'm just free. I'm planning a fall trip, maybe Japan this time. I'm crafting new furniture for my home, pieces built to endure. I'm shaping a life that doesn't need a filter to feel fulfilling. Lila wanted a life that sparkled online. I wanted one that felt real. Turns out, you can't have both when one depends on tearing the other down. She made her choice at the airport, picking her image over me. In the end, that image, fuzzy and fading, was all she had left.